This is my last day in India. I can see a lot of Portuguese influence. I do feel a bit tired. I can really feel the sand whipping against my legs. This is part 3 of my trip to India, Mumbai to Kochi. Hello and welcome to Mumbai. So this is now the 5th place on my trip to India, and already I can see how different it is to all the other places I've been to so far. You can really see the influence from the British colonial times with the buildings and brickwork, and it's very reminiscent of what I see back in England. So it's quite strange. I headed to one of the most iconic parts of Mumbai, a huge arch known as the Gateway to India. This was built to commemorate King George V's coronation as the Emperor of India in 1911. This was also the site of a terrorist attack in 2003 and 2008, alongside the beautiful Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, and even now there are a lot of guards and security around the area. Within this area are a lot of people buying and selling street food, and this is also the case around Mumbai, areas filled with amazing smelling food and friends spending time together. Perhaps the most significant and famous part of Mumbai is a place called Marine Drive. And whilst on my way there, I came across more unbelievable buildings. The Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus, made again during the British rule. The historic significance of Gandhi was also evident in Mumbai, as it was in Delhi, enforcing again why I completed a drawing of him during my Delhi trip, which you can see in a previous video. I made it to Marine Drive, a 3-kilometre promenade along the Arabian Sea, which shows the immense wealth of this part of India, which is a far cry from the other parts I had already visited. Mumbai is the economic hub of the country, and along this promenade are 5-star hotels, cricket stadiums, political residences, and much more. So I'm at a very popular Mumbai beach called Gargam Chowpatty Beach, and it's extremely windy. The beach is actually really nice. If it wasn't so windy and a bit sunnier, it would actually be an amazing beach. But as it stands now, I'm getting blasted with wind, with sand. So, not ideal. Yeah, not exactly a relaxing beach day. But it's a beach which is just off Marine Drive, which was the long curved path just on the edge of the ocean. It's a very popular area with locals, and I had a brief walk down there yesterday and it was so busy because it's the weekend. Today's a weekday, but still plenty of people. And even on the beach now, people are putting their feet in the water. No one's in because it's very wavy and it wouldn't be the most safe in the world. But yeah, like I said, it's a very nice beach. It could just do with not being so windy. But I'm only in Mumbai for a very short period of time, so I'm trying to see as much as I can whilst I'm here. And now I'm going to leave the beach because it's just not very fun. And head to a few local parks and see what they're like. One's called the Hanging Garden, so I'm going to head there first, and then I will see what else is around the area. After leaving the beach, I headed to a local park to escape the sandstorm, which gave me a good view of Mumbai. I didn't have long to explore this great city, but it was great seeing different aspects of it whilst I was here. This was the city where the Jungle Book author Rudyard Kipling was born, which is something I explored in a previous video, and I drew my own version of the book. There was time for one last walk before heading to my new destination. So after a very quick stay in Mumbai, I'm now in the south of India, in a place called Kochi, which is in Kerala. And I'm specifically in a place called Fort Kochi, which is in the north of a small part of the area. So now I'm going to head to Chinese nets, which is a fishing technique the locals use around here, which is huge manual nets that they lower into the sea. Just walking past a very loud school, you can hear behind me. But yeah, so I'm just going to walk through this square now and head over to see how they use the nets, and it's one of the iconic parts of this area of Kochi. But already I can see a lot of Portuguese influence and a lot of European influence across this area, which is quite a change from the rest of India. It's nowhere near as busy, and there's a lot more green around, which is highlighted in a lot of the art in the area. They're always looking out for nature and trying to do their bit to save the environment, which I think is quite prominent as you get towards the south of India compared to the north. So another interesting thing about Kochi is they have their own language, and you also see a lot more churches in the area, like Catholic churches, which maybe is down to some European influence, but it's something that I've not seen anywhere else in India, with it being predominantly Hindu or Muslim. So that was quite an unexpected change. That's something I hadn't read before, so it's interesting to see their take on the buildings, and yeah, it's cool. These are the Chinese fishing nets, where the fishermen lower the huge nets into the water for a few minutes before pulling them back out again. This is something they do continuously throughout the day, and it's completely unique to this area. After seeing such a cool thing unique to Kochi, I wanted to head to the backwaters, so I headed out of Fort Kochi. And whilst walking through the local area, I felt like I stumbled across an area from The Last of Us, or a horror film. Just messing. So there are many different parts of Kochi because it's separated by rivers and the sea, so it's a bit more difficult to get from place to place because you've got to work your way through different bridges and paths. But right now I'm in a very quiet area. I've already walked through like the old part of Kochi, as well as Fort Kochi near where I'm staying. But right now, there's not many people around. It's like a small residential area, but it's nice just having the sound of the water and birds and everything else. As always, I'm on the lookout for any sort of animals that I can see, but so far, no luck. But we keep trying. So I think just beyond a few more streets, I get into the backwaters of Kochi, which is where you have a lot of people on boats, fishing and going in between trees and things. So I'm just gonna keep going, see if I can find it. I'm now in the backwaters of Kochi. It's very, very quiet, a lot more rural. So there is still people living here, but you don't see too many people. Just hear a lot of birds, really, more than anything. But it's a really nice area, very relaxing. Which, to be fair, Kochi in general is, polar opposites to some of the other cities I've been to in India so far. It does have that rural feeling more than being a big city. It reminds me a lot more of when I was in areas of Sri Lanka and even going towards Southeast Asia. It reminds me a bit more compared to the rest of India. If there was a bench here or a seat to sit down, it would be perfect. But I'm going to keep walking a bit further and just see what else is around. I'm glad I made the journey. I walked the whole way here, and it's quite a long walk, maybe about an hour in Fort Kochi. But like most places, I prefer to do the walking rather than just get taxis everywhere or tuk-tuks, because you get to actually see the city better than you do when you just jump into a tuk-tuk and just wait until you get somewhere. And I'm sure I've mentioned it before, that's one of my big tips really, when you go somewhere, is don't just get in a taxi everywhere, do some walking around, because you see much more than you would. So that's a little tip for you. After a long, tiring day, I settled down to an amazing Kerala chicken curry, Kerala rice and some chapatis. The next day I headed to the water metro, which is basically a public transport to get from one part of Kochi to another, seeing as it's covered with water. I left Fort Kochi and headed to Ernakulam. After a walk around the residential areas as well as the cultural sites, I headed for a chicken biryani and garlic naan. I have become obsessed with garlic naan during my time in India. This is my last day in India, and it's a little bit of a delayed start because the weather was so horrific this morning with the rain. It was torrential for about 2 hours. There's still puddles around now, but it is starting to go away. But, looking above and feeling it in the air, you feel like it could start at any time. So I've been thinking about who I could do for my next drawing and maybe combining the Mumbai trip and the Kochi trip together. Whilst developing this idea in my head, I headed into Mattincherry, the old part of Kochi, which was built by the Portuguese. It's also known for its historic Jewish population with Jewtown and the Paradisi synagogue. After exploring Mattancherry, I was headed back in my final tuk-tuk of this India trip. So I'm back from another long day, another nice day in Kochi. So today I was in Mattancherry quite a lot of the time, which is the old part of Kochi, and I was quite surprised to see a lot of Jewish parts of that area of Kochi. You can see there was Jew Road, which is quite a strange name for a road, and it's called Jew Town. And there you have quite a few synagogues, and it's obviously a very historic area where there was a large Jewish population many years ago. So this one of the things that surprised me a lot with Kochi has been how diverse it is with religion more than anything, because obviously you have the Catholic churches, you have the synagogues, you have mosques, Hindu temples, there's everything here, which you don't get many places in the world, never mind India. The majority of the time I've been in India, it's always been Muslim or Hindu, as I mentioned earlier on. So it's quite cool to see that diversification. And again, maybe it's the large influence of the Dutch influence, Portuguese influence, other parts of Europe. So it's quite cool to see that change and that difference to the other parts of India. Because this is my last day, I feel quite tired. It's I don't know what number country this is now where I've travelled on my own, but I'd probably say India is one of the most tiring places I've travelled. Again, it might be different if you're with somebody else or a group of people, because it's not so individual with the attention that people try to get from you, but every day is so busy. Lots and lots of people want to talk to you, so it does get tiring. So it's been an amazing trip. I've loved it. Every single part of India has been different in its own way, and you learn a lot when you come to somewhere like this, and it's good to see the cultural differences and economic differences. It's cool, and I love doing it, but I do feel a bit tired. I'm ready for a little break, but I would definitely come back, especially where I'm right now in Kerala. I've only been to Kochi and the areas within Kochi. If I was going to come back in future, I'd love to go to Thekadi, and there's many places look unbelievable, so green and like a lot of nature to see in the state of Kerala. I just haven't had the opportunity because I sort of don't really plan my journeys. I haven't really planned well enough, but initially I wasn't going to come to Kerala. That's sort of become a bit of a new part of the trip, so at least I came down here, got to see some of it, and I can't wait to again come back in future. And India's so huge, it's a massive country. You need months and months and months, probably a year to see most of it, and even then probably can't ever see all of it because it's so big. But for my first India trip, I'm happy with what I've done, and I'm just excited to keep exploring in future. And then I can start my next drawing, which, like I mentioned a bit earlier on, I think with combining the very small Mumbai trip that I did with this Kochi trip, in my mind at the moment I'm thinking about the Bollywood aspect of Mumbai, with it being the home of Bollywood. So there's so many popular Bollywood actors, with maybe the natural nature colours of Kochi, greens and blues. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. And when I think of Indian actors, I always think of Priyanka Chopra. So it may well be that I draw Priyanka, because she's got a great face to draw, and that's what I'm thinking at the moment. Again, just always planning these things in my mind, so I've got ideas and I'm looking forward to starting it. And then I will obviously move on from India and start all over again. I am so glad that I got to come to Kochi, as I hadn't intended on reaching Kerala on this particular trip. That was going to be a future journey. There were huge differences between Mumbai and Kochi, but they are both amazing places. I will definitely be back in future. Check out some more of my videos, and do me a favour, like the videos, comment and subscribe to the channel.